Good morning, everybody. So, we're going to go ahead and start talking about the astrology that's going on due to the weather that has impacted the majority of the United States. I'm a little behind on things, including the fact that my Zoom, which is how I do everything, because my whole shtick is online, also decided that it wanted to rebel against me in the last week and just kind of blow up. So please have some patience with me as I'm trying to get caught up, and the weather is just deeply impacting, especially my street. We've lost power and Wi-Fi multiple times this week. It's just been hard to have any sense of predictability. So again, appreciate you guys, and let's go ahead and dive in. So, the first thing we have to talk about is a little bit of retroactive astrology energy, and then we're going to bump forward. So, last week, well, technically this week, and it's important to know that right now, the lunar cycles are hitting on Sundays. So, it's like, it feels weird to kind of like forecast because we're talking about it as if it's like coming on, but it's like right now. So we had our first quarter moon, which is when the challenge kicks in, on Sunday, the 25th. It was at 6 degrees of Taurus. And we're going to talk about what kind of energy that is and how, it is impacting us on a very collective level and also us as individuals. Like there's just a real aspect to this right now. And it's really important mundane astrology. And the reason we have to talk about it is because everything's happening in Aquarius. And, it's Aquarius season. So today, at the time of this recording, it's January the 28th. We have Venus and Mercury in a cazimi today through tomorrow at 13 and 14 degrees of Aquarius. So there's this very strong energy of like us and the people versus, the old archetypal power structures that are deeply hierarchical. And not only that, but we've also got and it was conjunct Pluto yesterday on the 27th. So there's just a lot of really intense energy that's going on right now. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more as we prepare for our next lunar cycle, which is the full moon in Leo, which coincides with Imbolc proper. So we've got like a really important moon coming up, and I'm excited to talk about it. All right. So we have to talk for just a few minutes about what happens when we have a bunch of fixed planets moving in the sky. So the fixed planets are Taurus and Scorpio and Leo and Aquarius. Well, right now we've got a lot of activation and more activation that's going to come later in the year when Jupiter moves from Cancer on July 1st of this year. And then the nodes move from Virgo and Pisces into Aquarius and Leo. Then the nodes will be in a square to Jupiter and in a square to Pluto. But that's why I keep telling you guys, 2026 is going to feel like 2 years in one, because Q1 and Q2 are very different than Q3 and Q4. And if you want to know more about that, make sure you check out my 2026 year ahead webinar. I talk mainly about Q1 and Q2, but I also allude to what's coming in Q3 and 4. So it's a helpful thing, and I hope that it serves you well. So what's happening right now is all of these fixed planets that we have, they're all being activated, and it's creating this really intense tension. Now, in general, Pluto creates intensity, a lot of psychological intensity, fear, phobia, this kind of wanting to hide and not have to look at the truth when it's in a lower expression. When it's a higher expression, it wants to get underneath, the surface. And that's why Pluto is tied to archaeologist. It wants to dig things up and see what's under the surface. Well, the sun is the great illuminator, and the sun is in Aquarius. And last week was a very important week to pay attention to. And I know I talked a little bit about it in that astro forecast, but I just want to talk briefly again about it and why it's so important. So Aquarius is the sign of the people. It rules the 11th house, which is mass intelligence, the mass collective. So it really rules like the people, like the community, and like the new thoughts that are coming in. So like new thought era, awakening, being unconventional, seeing things different, being more community minded instead of like personal focused. And we're really going to see those dynamics play out a lot as we get into this next eclipse that's coming up on February 17th, but especially by summer when Jupiter moves into Leo and also the North and South node move into Aquarius and Leo, which are going to square Pluto. And it's just this big, big push, especially when you have eclipses going on, that is going to really drive those areas. And why that matters right now is because these are glimpses. Last week, we had what's called a synodic cycle of Pluto. The sun goes over Pluto once a year. So we get to see in full illumination, like, what is this transit going to be about? It was at 3 degrees, and the early degrees are helpful because they give us like a sense of what may be coming down the pipe. And we don't know yet, but the sun kind of gives us these illuminations. And then we had Mercury go over Pluto, Venus go over Pluto. Yesterday, we had Mars go over Pluto. So it's like we're getting these very strong awarenesses about what is Pluto in Aquarius going to be about. And if you pay any attention to the news, it is the people against political power. And we have all of these really important astrological aspects ranging, from traditional Western astrology, which is solar based, all the way into Chinese astrology, which is animal based. And we move into the year of the fire horse, which is based on Chinese mythology. And I've been studying it for a while. I don't know where my book went, but I have this old book that's from 1969 that I love collecting old esoteric books and reading them to see what they prophesied a long time ago is coming. And on the second page, I opened it and it was talking about the year 2026 and the fire horse and how that's like a year that's going to change humanity. So I was like, okay, like we need to be prepared because the new era is here. The resistance is here. And where is your place in the resistance? And so those are just some of the things that are kind of like percolating underneath the surface. Now, the astrology for this week is on Sunday, February the 1st. So it is also Imbolc proper. Well, the Imbolc is Bridget's holiday. It's about healing. It's about the hearth. It's about fire, protection. It is also when we start to get a glimpse, like Imbolc means in the belly. And in Celtic lore, this was a time when they would start seeing the goats that they bred, start to see their stomach show, or they would start to work on conception right now. And when we think about that from the winter solstice perspective, which is like the return of the light, and it's still dark, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel and we can sense it because, in the northern hemisphere at winter solstice, the light is returning back to us. But it's when we start to get this real glimmer of what's underneath that. So when I ask you guys, like, what's dreaming through you? Like, this is a time of the year that we really want to pay attention to what's dreaming through us. What visions are coming? What longing is appearing? What actual dreams are you having? Like what do you got going on underneath all of that? It's important time because it really pulls what's in the subconscious up to the surface. Well, so not only do we have in bulk, but we also have a full moon at 13 degrees of Leo. And it's powerful in multiple ways. But the Leo full moon happens around this time every single year, and it's called the quickening moon. And the quickening moon is known for being restless and irritable and like, I got to get moving. It's like, so what they say, ancestrally is that this is the time, the moon that would start to activate trees, the plants, all things are starting to move. Their chi is like moving again as it prepares for spring. And we can't see it again in the belly. We can't see what's in the belly. We just know something is forming, right? So it's the same thing. And that's when the seeds in the earth start to shake, like the grass literally starts to shake. The maple in the trees starts to, like warm up and move again in theory. I mean, it's like -2 degrees or something right now, but it is an important time when things start to like move again, but it's underneath the surface. We can't see it in bulk, in the belly. Like back in those days, they didn't have x-rays. They didn't have, the ability to look through ultrasounds and see what was happening in a woman's belly when, they're pregnant with something. It was just all mystery. And that is like what we're in right now. And as we hit Sunday, which is another cross quarter, we set up for the next 6 weeks of Imbolc to spring equinox, which is Aries season, which is really going to be powerful this year because we're going to have Saturn and Neptune in the very early degrees of Aries. And it's just like this whole new energy really is settling in. Okay. Again, go listen to my 2026 webinar because I talk a lot about how this time right now is very reminiscent of this time last year, because this is when Neptune and Saturn were moving into Aries for the first time, but then they retrograded back and now they're about to end back up in Aries and they're not going to move. They're going to be there for a long time. So things that we started around this time of the year last year, you may have felt like you got them moving and then they just stopped dead in the water. Well, that was Saturn and Neptune pulling back into the late degrees of Pisces. But now Saturn and Neptune are moving back in and definitely pushing that energy to be brought into completion. And Saturn brings tests. He tests whether or not you're going to do what you say you're going to do. So it's this kind of challenging period of time. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this full moon that's coming up because it's at 13 degrees of Leo. And Leo is a lot about quite a few things. One is leadership. It's very, very important to Leo. And that's why its actual mantra is I lead or I create, because it's very, very much about leadership. The other thing is, I'm pulling this chart up for you guys so you can see it for a brief moment. Okay, so pull this over really quick. Okay, so this is the full moon chart. Okay, it's going to happen around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And actually, hold on, let me think if it's Eastern Standard Time. No, I'm sorry. It's later, 2200 hours. So we are looking at a full moon on Sunday Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be the majority of waxing all day. So prepare for Saturday and Sunday to be saucy, okay? Because it's a fire sign. And we are, in a lot of ways, getting initiated into fire because we have been in water and earth for so long. And now it's like baptism by fire, legit, because this full moon starts eclipse season off. And these two moons, which is the the full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. The next one is the new moon in Aquarius at 28 degrees, and that one's an eclipse. So these two moons over the next lunar cycle, we got to pay attention to, because it's going to give us a lot of signs as to what the next 2 years is going to be about for us. So get your journal out, get your pen out, like just start writing things down, like whether you use your phone notes or, whatever, but there is a level of like prophecy here that, or oracular awareness or pattern recognition, whatever you want to call it. But it's like, take time to focus on what are your challenges right now? Where are your resistances? Where's your growth? What are you dreaming about right now? Like I have started working on my LinkedIn again, because by summer, I want to start moving into the world of being hired by corporations to do workshops and lectures. And I did it. I put it out only on my not my Telegram, but my LinkedIn. And that day, later that night, a person I know reached out to me and was like, "Hey, would you ever be interested in coming in and training my staff for a weekend?" And I was like, "Oh my God," like I just put it out there and the universe was like, big wink. So I know I'm not there yet because I'm so busy in completing the school and this transfer, from one platform to another, that I'm up to my eyeballs in what I already have. But I am planning for summer to really start to move in that direction. I'm not going to stop myself if the opportunities keep coming and it pays well. But I know my priority is to complete, these 6 of what I have committed to well. Okay. So it's things like that. When you're like dreaming about these new things, you want to pay attention. You want to pay attention to like what is coming up through the subconscious. Where do you feel challenged? All right. So when we look at this, anytime we have a full moon, just anytime, we have the sun and the moon in exact opposition. They'll be at 13 degrees. We can see how Pluto's at 3 degrees. Mars is at 7, the sun's at 13, Venus will be at 19, and Mercury will be at 21. So these are important things to pay attention to, because like that's a hell of a stellium, guys. And as we get into February, we start to get into the retro shade of Mercury retrograde in late Pisces. So there is like this like era that is coming to an end, where we keep getting these touch points, and Neptune moved into 0 degrees of Aries 2 days ago. So we've officially got one stationed back in. So you can see when it comes to Aries that Neptune is at 0 degrees and Saturn's going to be at 28. Well, then, about a month later, Mercury is going to go over those degrees again. And it's like these last remnants of karma, last remnants of the past in regards to that area of your life. And then it's like full steam ahead. So I keep trying to remind people like, yes, things feel slow and stagnant and just like, oh my God, will you just change? And a large part of it is like, well, no, not until the snake year is complete, which is February 17, and not until we get past these like very important parts of these karmic pieces falling off, because Pisces, especially late Pisces, rules karma, stuff from past lives, stuff from your ancestors. So if we can move our perception in a way that's like these ancient beliefs, these ancient thoughts that we've had are just collapsing off of us, then it allows it to be more of an opportunity to heal, more of an opportunity to surrender, detox, let go, versus focusing on like nothing's moving ahead yet. I feel that way too, guys. Like I do. I feel that way too. But we have to pay attention to what's the bigger situation. And that is like scales are falling off, literally, like whether it's snake scales and it's your skin, whether it is literally scales of karma, they're falling off. And our job is just to continue to surrender, release, detox, move it out, hold capacity, hold space for the new energy coming in, because a new energy is coming in. Leo and Aquarius are far more dynamic than Virgo and Pisces. Virgo and Pisces are like the mystic and the mundane. They are like your literal detox pathways. They're the healer axis of the zodiac. So they come in and they purge things. They, you know, expand your belief in things. They challenge your belief in things. They shake you so that you have to let loose of things. Like, you know, the last time this happened is when I lost my faith. Literally, like this was a very important time for me. You know, 2025 and 2026 is when I had my spiritual awakening. And, you know, literally, in Pisces rules Jesus, and the South Node was in Pisces at the time, the North Node was in Virgo, is I lost my faith in the idea of Christianity. And like I said, Jesus was ruled by Neptune. That was, you know, when the whole Jesus situation happened, was when it was the era of Pisces. Well, now we're in the age of Aquarius, which is information over belief. And there are positives and negatives to that. And I'm not going to go fully into that right now. But I just want you guys to know that this full moon is hella important, not just for right now, but like to pay attention to how it's going to impact us, especially over the next 2 years, but really the next 19 years, guys, because Pluto in Aquarius is new and it's a whole new era that everybody in the 60s was talking about. Well, now it's here. Like the era that they were preparing for in 1969 is now here. And we are seeing global resistance and people rising up against hierarchical power systems. So please just keep that in mind. All right, now let's go ahead and get ready to move into our tarot prompt. So right now, what I want you to do is I want you to pull a card that is, what is the full moon in Leo illuminating for me? Like what? And then 2 surrounding cards. All right. So anytime we have a full moon, the point of it is illumination. So we want to look back to when we had our full moon in Leo, which would have been in, well, let's see, what was that? I can't remember if it was late August or early September when we had it, but it was fall, because when we have the Leo new moon, that's when we start to plant seeds for what is coming. And, you know, 6 months later is the full moon. And that is also why we associate full moons with celebration or illumination, because we're really starting to see what is the byproduct of what we planted 6 months previously. So if you guys just give me 1 minute, I will tell you exactly when that was so that you can think about that. But I want you to go ahead and pull that card. And let me tell you about this. Hang tight. Just give me 1 second because it's a little wacky. Go ahead and pull your card though. Okay, so the Leo new moon last year was July the 24th at 3:11 p.m. at 2 degrees of Leo. Okay, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. July the 24th. And this was also opposite Pluto. And Pluto was retrograde. So there was a lot of big energy that was going on at that time as well. So just keep that in mind. But the question is, what is the Leo new moon illuminating for me? So you can shift that to make it more precise for yourself if you want. Like it could be like, what is the Leo new moon clarifying for me about my career? What is the new moon in Leo illuminating about my self concept, right? Like it can be as personal as you want it, but it is important to recognize, like, if you just give it general, it's gonna, your guides are gonna pull up what you need to see the most. And that's why I like to keep new moon and full moon like general, because it's gonna tell me what area of my life is gonna be, what it's gonna be about, instead of trying to, like, make it more specific to where I want it to go. So just keep that in mind when it's like a broad pool. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this astro forecast for now. And I will see you guys in our next astro forecast here shortly.